Hey everyone, I'm back with another gameplay video. So this video is going to be a little different. If you're just getting here now, I would first check out part one. This is part two of a video, and this is looking at my recent modern qualifier. So that was a 301 player. I think it was 9 rounds. So I played tournament online. Top 4 got an RCQ invite. So the part one of the video is going to show the first 5 rounds of that tournament. We started out 4-1, so it was really strong performance. We were 4-0, and then we lost just this last round to Omnath. So this is going to pick up at that round 6, where we're sitting at 4-1. I'm not going to go too in depth with the deck tech here. Again, like I said, you can watch the part 1 for the full deck tech. But I will just highlight what we've got going on. So we've got our 1 Bonecrusher Giant and 2 Reprieve in the flex slots. I like Bonecrusher against Scam and Yawgmoth, and Reprieve's good against like Amulet, and Rhinos, and it's okay against Yawgmoth. So I like to kind of hedge for those big matchups now. And then the sideboard, the kind of change we've got is Celestial Purge as a 1-of. And that's kind of the big change. Again, if you want to see the full deck tech, you can check out in the part 1, which I'll link in this video, and it's also be linked in the description. So anyway, we're going to get right into the action here. I did have an issue with the video, so this is going to be more of a game analysis of kind of what we're going to look at the game replays. For whatever reason, I lost the footage of the second half of those 5 rounds. So let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of like game analysis, or if you like the more long form. But we're going to give this a try. So like I said, we're picking up at 4-1 right now in round 6. And we're going to get into our game 1. So still in a great position to make the top 8. Again, it's a little harder with 1 loss, but I know my breakers are going to be pretty good, even if we get a second loss, because my first, like I said, I started off the round 4-1. So we start off. We do win the die roll, which is always nice. We're playing against a player named Amulet Go, so I did look up what he was playing, and sure enough, it was Amulet. So we're getting started. This is not a great hand against Amulet. I had to mold a 5. It's not amazing, but I figured I had to keep it because my other hands were unkeepable. So start off, we play Nacatl to go Saga turn 1. This is good that they don't at least have an Amulet yet for us. And then here I actually make my first mistake of the match, of the game. So normally, if you see my sequencing, you might be like, why did I go Overgrown Tomb first? That's just because I wanted to get the green-black. I wanted to get the black mana early, and I wanted to get Sacred Foundry here. So I got 4 types. Like either way, we're going to have 5 types on turn 3, but this gives me the flexibility to get double red or something like that if I end up needing it. But the mistake I make, which is not something I do very often when fetching, is if you notice that I get a Steam Vents, and that makes it so my Nacatl is not a 3/3. So I miss out on point of damage here, and that can end up being important. So again, like even when you've been playing this deck a while, you want to make sure you're taking your time with the fetches. Like I said, my opponent has Urza Saga, which is better than having Saga plus Amulet turn 1, so it looks like he's just going to try to make it till he gets his Saga turn 3. So here I'm going to just attack with everything. I get Scion, which is good, and I want to away, and I get a Binding, which is very good. So now I'm feeling like I'm in a much better position. I'm going to get in for 8, and then now we have a lot of pressure, and we have a Binding to answer the Amulet or whatever my opponent tries to do here. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. I could have binded here, but my thought process was I'm going to... Oh, sorry, I do bind here, yeah. This is just going to be, I'm going to stop whatever he's trying to do. So I'm going to force him into desperation mode. Obviously, he's dead on board if he doesn't jam anything. He manages to jam Dryad. So now we're going to attack. Of course, we'll loot away our extra land here. And then we get another sign, which is fine. But you'll notice here, so if you remember how I said I missed out on 1 point of damage with my Nacatl, my opponent's at 1 life. So that point of damage did actually lose me this game, because basically it would have forced him to chump the Kavu with his Dryad. His Dryad would die, and then he might just concede from there, or he'll take a draw step, and he's not really anything. But again, his Dryad being alive is what's going to allow him to combo off this turn. So you'll see he starts with a Grazer, and then he's going to be able to get his Titan down. He's going to Pact. Again, I'm tapped. I have just a land in hand. He gets the Azusa, and then his last 2 cards. He gets Valakut, and he can Valakut me out, and then I'm at 3. So I'm at 6 life. And he still has like another land drop, so then that's the Valakut trigger. So he just kills me with Valakut that turn. So obviously, this was a tough loss to lose. Especially when we're talking about I just lost a round, and I'm sitting at 4-1, and this is like 100% my fault. I punted this game away. My opponent beat me on 1 life, killed me on 1 life. So not a great feeling, but we're gonna try to bounce back in game 2 here. Okay, in game 2 here, again, we're on the play against Amulet Titan. That first hand wasn't that good. It was like clunky mana. This hand's fine. It's not amazingly aggressive, but we've got some interaction, some sideboard cards with Tear Asunder and Leyline Binding. If you look at what I bring in for the sideboard, you can check my sideboard guide. Again, it's free. I'm going to basically bring in my Artifact and Enchantment Hate, and I was still bringing in Chalices in here, but I've since updated my strategy a bit to that. I don't like doing that, and I cut Ragavans because of Grazer, but now I think I prefer to keep Ragavans in. With some sideboard changes. So again, I'm always kind of testing and refining the list. I'll update the sideboard guide sometimes, mid-month and stuff when I'm trying different stuff out. So, but here, my opponent starts off Grazer, so not the fastest start for them, but he might have been playing around some hate, and I managed to get my Scion down. He does get the Amulet here, and then he dismembers the Grazer. I was actually kind of surprised by this because most Amulet players will not give their, if they have Mycosynth in hand, then they won't tap out with it without copying their Amulet. I guess what I'm trying to say is like they open themselves up to removal by taking the line that my opponent did, and I think I don't know why he did, but maybe his assumption was I just didn't have anything. But I think that was actually a kind of a misplay on his part because he did play the Dismember, but he gave me a window to bind or Tear Asunder his Amulet, and that's exactly what I do. So now I'm feeling like I'm in okay shape. He's got 4 cards in hand, but he's got nothing going on. I would like a third land, we do get the third land. This is really good because now I can go Scion plus hold up Binding. So I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good spot here. Obviously, it's not perfect, but we have double Tribal Flames in hand. He's going to get the Radiant Fountain down and Spelunking. I do bind the Spelunking. I don't know if this is necessary, but my thought is this basically acts like Amulet. So I wanted to deal with it now. Unfortunately, again, he's got this Radiant Fountain that's going to prove to be a problem. And I'm also... without more lands, I can't do a ton of damage. So here I just fire off a Tribal Flames. I actually tapped poorly there. I should have. I gave away too much information. But I guess I could buff Binding here. But I could have maybe tapped differently to hold up blue to make it look like I have stub or something. I don't know if it makes that much difference, but just something to consider. And then unfortunately, he goes One Ring here, which for my current hand, it's kind of an issue. Again, we don't have Binding anymore. And he plays a second Grazer, which is also an issue because it can block Scion next turn. So now we're starting to feel like the game's slipping away here. We draw another land, and that's good. But again, we can't push through any damage. We don't have any interaction, and now he can just draw a lot of cards, unfortunately. So we're not in a great spot. He's going to just keep drawing with Ring. Again, maybe I wasn't supposed to bind the Spelunking, but I think it just accelerates his clock too much. Although he doesn't have any bounce lands, or he hasn't played any, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have them in hand. Now he's got another Grazer, and again, this is just getting annoying because I don't have a great way to deal with them. So I do draw a Brawler here. He blocks with a Grazer. Sure, I'm going to just play Brawler, I think, and then... No, I tried to Tribal Flames the Dryad there, because my thought process is that I don't want him to Valakut me again, and this stops him from doing a lot of stuff. Of course, he gets the Titan down. Unfortunately, again, he keeps bouncing that Radiant Fountain, so he's gained like 6 life this game from the Radiant Fountain. That's really what saves him at the end of the day. Here, we have to just attack with everything. He considers blocking, but doesn't block. Oh, he does block here, sorry. So we get a window to kill the Titan. And we do, so I think we're in okay shape, but of course he's got 7 cards in hand, he's going to draw 4 more this turn, so we're not in that good shape. He goes Dryad, and then I think now it's pretty much over. He just drew too many cards with Ring. So, yeah, I think the only mistake, again, was I supposed to actually bind the Spelunking, or was I supposed to do something different? He just burns me out with Valakut again. So, just kind of tough game, honestly. Obviously, the game 1 was mine to win. This one, I just had a kind of a slower hand. I felt like I dealt with his threats, but he got the Ring down, was able to draw, 10 cards with it, so you're just not going to win a game like that. But yeah, my thought process to bind Spelunking was just basically acting like Amulet because his lands come into play untapped. So that was pretty much it. So I didn't want him to be able to just ramp a lot. Now you can make the argument that I could have waited to see if he played a bounce land or not, of whether I bind Spelunking. If he doesn't, that means he doesn't have any in hand, and then maybe I don't need to worry as much about it. So I think that's the only play line I might have taken differently this game. But yeah, so now I was a little frustrated because, like I said, that game 1 loss was on me, and we're falling to, at this point, 4-2. So we are still alive for top 8, but it's going to get a lot harder. We're going to have to really hope our breakers are good and stuff like that. So after those 2 losses, we're on to round 7 again. It's a 9-round tournament, so we're still trying to play it out to potentially stay alive for top 8. At this time, my breakers were actually very good, so I thought I did have a chance to still make top 8 if I went out. So that's kind of what I'm focused on at this point. Okay, getting into the round 7 here. That first hand didn't have any lands. This hand's good, though. We got turn 1 threat, turn 2 threat, so I'm just going to play him out. Again, I'm on the play, so I'm just not worried about Bowmaster or anything. I'll just play my Nacatl 1/1, and then we'll get to it. Okay, we're against Amulet again. So we do have the Binding here, so I can attack for 3, and then here it's just 2. I just can't let him copy the Amulet, so I have to deal with the Amulet now. Obviously, this is easier to do on the play. He's going to play Expedition Map, but he's not really progressing his board. I'm not applying a ton of pressure, but I'm applying a good amount of pressure. And then here it's just, of course, I can double spell. I can play Kavu, hold up Stub, and now it just feels almost impossible to lose. You know, they play the Gardens. I'm going to swing for a ton of damage. I think I've maybe loot away this basic forest here. The Nacatl will get a second Stub. Not that helpful, but maybe it could be. You know, we'll just play Nacatl. Opponent's at 6 life. I just feel so far ahead here. Of course, he's going to crack the map, get Boseiju to try to get his Amulet back. But again, unless he has like Pact plus a bunch of other stuff, then we feel pretty good. And I think at this point, he's going to just try to jam the ring. We've got Stub, and that's the game. So it felt good to win this kind of quick game. Of course, we're on the play against Amulet, but it felt good to win this quick game against Amulet after what happened last round. And then we're on to round game 2. Again, we're just siding in our artifact and enchantment hate mostly. You can check my sideboard guide for exactly what I do. I think in this version, I was still on natural state. Now I've since changed that to Force of Vigor, just a little more explosive and a little better on the draw. So here, this hand's not amazing, but I feel like I can't mulligan a hand with Prismatic Ending and Reprieve in it because they're both good in the matchup. I do get a good top deck with Nacatl. It's like very important because my hand wasn't going to do anything. And you might ask, why did I play Nacatl here instead of like waiting for Scion? And that's just because I felt like I need to get a threat on board, get a little pressure, and maybe I can hold up Reprieve the following turns. You know, I have a few options, but I'd rather get the threat on board than just do nothing for a bunch of turns. So opponent plays Razor and then Saga, and so this is showing me he doesn't have much going on, which is good for me. Again, we'll just play Nacatl, but now we can hold up Reprieve and Prismatic Ending, which is a good spot to be in. I think he's just going to go with a Construct token plan for now to probably, you know, get some blockers to slow me down, which I'm not too worried about that, honestly. At this point, I'm just going to keep swinging, see if he decides to block or chump or what he's doing here. He's not even blocking or chumping, which is interesting. Okay, so this point, I could have played a Brawler, but again, I'm holding up Reprieve because I'm too worried he's just going to jam Titan this turn, and I want to at least give me some time, buy me some time from doing that. And it looks like that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, he has the Titan, I Reprieve it, and then we get a Chalice, so that's not that helpful here. But yeah, we had the Savai Triome. I could have cracked. I think the reason I didn't crack that Wooded Foothills was in case that he had a Summoner's Pact in hand, but I don't think that was necessary. Could have saved myself some life by doing that, cracking it earlier. I just played the Chalice, but again, I know he could get Titan down if he has the mana for it, but he probably doesn't, and then so he's going to go One Ring instead, and then he's playing the Amulet. So I think we're not in an amazing position. He's starting to attack, which I think is kind of, I guess he's got the One Ring, so he's not too worried. But we do draw the Tear Asunder, obviously an amazing top deck in this situation because we can deal with the Amulet, and then now we got pretty good pressure on board, so we'll just try to see. Again, he's got to get to 6 lands to jam Titan, and he's just having a hard time getting there. And I decided Tear Asunder the Amulet. I felt like it was more important than One Ring at this point. Obviously, the Ring draws him a lot of cards, but I think the Amulet, with knowing he has Titan in hand already, it's just too risky. So he's obviously playing a bunch of lands. He's doing a bunch of stuff, but his life total is still pretty low. And you know, he's going to lose 2 life next turn. So I'm just swinging for a lot of damage this turn. Plus, I can cycle this. I get a Stub, which could be useful. And again, he's forced him to block. He's at 7. He's at 5. So now it's just, you know, he has to either jam Titan or something. And even with Titan, he's not in amazing shape because he doesn't have an Amulet. So he has to like Boseiju my Scion or something like that and then, you know, double block or something. But I think he actually like makes a mistake or something. I'm not really sure what he was trying to do. He had 7 cards in hand and he like played a Crumbling Visage. I would have thought he would have played like bounce land, bounce Boseiju, try to figure out how to Boseiju my Scion and then like block. But I'm not sure if he messed up his sequence or like he bricked on something. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but we ended up getting there. So I was happy to get that 2-0 victory over Amulet after that that 0-2 loss. So yeah, so right now we're sitting at 5-2 heading into round 8. So still in a great position, still very much alive. Still alive for top 8, but again, my breakers are gonna have to be good. There'll be a few 2 losses that make it into the top 8. My breakers could be okay. Again, going into this, they were pretty good for these last few rounds, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. Okay, so here we are with the round 8. I run the die roll, which is always important. This hand is like not amazing, but it's fine. I look what my opponent's on. He plays a few different decks, so I just kind of decide I'm going to jam Ragavan. Turn 1, it's always nice to play Ragavan turn 1. He's got the Fatal Push plus Urborg, which is nice because it fixes my mana. As you see right here, I'm able to play Scion of Draco, so I love when my opponent fixes my mana for me. But this is a tough matchup because it looks like my opponent's on Coffers. So Scion's really important in this matchup. He's basically his deck can have a hard time dealing with this. Because he's mostly playing like fatal pushes and stuff like that. So I decided I'm just going to be as aggressive as possible. So that's why you saw me just fire off the Tribal Flames right away rather than trying to like hold up Reprieve or something. Again, I'm expecting him to start blowing up my lands. So that Tribal Flames isn't going to get any better with time. So I just want to like do as much damage as possible. And he starts blowing up my lands. But again, I have another fetch land, so it's not terrible. And I draw another Scion, which is like very powerful. Again, it's hard for his deck to deal with other than like Shieldred's Edict. And now I feel like I'm in a pretty great position. So here I decide to not play the second Scion, and this is mostly because I want to hold up Reprieve, and I think I didn't want to crack this fetch just because I was worried that my opponent was like gonna die. I think I wanted to hold up double counter was the reasoning, because he had the Profane Tutor coming off suspend, and he had 4 mana, so he could have jammed a ring here. So obviously I don't know what my opponent's gonna do, but I just wanted to have 2 counters up, and I felt like that was more important than having the second Scion on board. So that was my thought process here. So and sure enough, he plays 1 ring, which like again plays perfectly into my hand. So I just stub it, and then he's now in a very bad shape. He's at 4. He's going to go down to 3 life. I can play my Scion, and I can hold up Reprieve. So it feels like I just can't really lose from this position. I'm just going to jam everything. I have 5 types again, and then here he goes March. So I Reprieve the March, and then he has a second March. So he's basically dumping his whole hand to kill a Scion to keep him alive, which it does keep him alive, but I'm kind of fine with that exchange. I've got a monkey in hand that I drew, and now I can just dash monkey, attack with everything, and then I go to 5, and I think I put Jegantha in hand here. Yeah. So now I just feel like, we're still in a great position. My opponent's at 1 life. There's not a lot of things he could do. He could try like chain along rings, or maybe play another March, but that wouldn't even do it. He'd need more mana. I think you need 1 more mana to do March. So anyway, we managed to get there, and it felt really good to get a game 1 win against Coffers. I think this is a very tough matchup for Zoo. They've got a lot of removal. They've got discard. They've got land destruction. It's just, it's like a deck that's built to beat Zoo, but you kind of saw the strength of Scion of Draco against some of these mono black decks. It's also very good against any kind of blue black deck. So it's just hard to beat. It's hard to deal with at 12 mana. This is a deck that's relying on Fatal Push a lot. So it's nice to, like, my opponent could have had Fatal Pushes in hand, and here's my Scion of Draco, and I'm just going to beat you down. So that was nice to get that game 1 win, and then I expect game 2 to be a lot harder on the draw. So let's see how game 2 plays out here. Okay, game 2 on the draw here. If you're wondering how I sideboard, again, you check my sideboard guide out. Mostly I'm just bringing in, I'm trimming on the Ragavans, and that's just because of Bowmaster. They're not amazing in this matchup, and then I think there's not a whole lot of other stuff. I forget exactly what I side in. I think it's basically just the Tear Asunders you can see here. They're good against Ring. It's basically the idea with them. But other than that, we're not doing a ton of sideboarding. I think I bring in Bonecrusher as well, and that's mostly gets the Ring matchup and also the 2-for-1 if they're just going to try to discard stuff. So starting off, this hand is like fine. I like to see an early threat. Nacattl's fine. Guess of course I'm going to play around Bowmaster, so I'm going to get my Temple Garden with Nacatl, make it a 2/2. And we can start applying some pressure. So the big difference is, like, I just want to try to tax his removal every turn. Like, I'm on the draw, sure, he's going to have Fatal Pushes, he's going to have removal, but, maybe he doesn't have that second removal spell, and, he suspends Profane Tutor, so I have a chance to get some pressure on board here with Kavu. And that's what we have to do. And at a certain point in this matchup, it's kind of like a control deck, so we just need to jam and pray. He Thought Seizes here, takes the Tribal Flames, which I thought was interesting. So that tells me he probably has a slower hand, maybe doesn't have Ring in hand or something like that. But feel like we're in a pretty good position here. Attack for a bunch. He's at 13. So I am actually a little worried. You might be like, hey, why did I just do all that? Or why did I not just jam Brawler here? And it's a few reasons. One, I'm worried about a board wipe. So he is playing some number of Damnation. I think it was only 1 in like a recent version he played online. But like, I just don't want to overextend into Damnation. And I also want to hold up Tear Asunder for a ring so he can't draw a card. That's my thought process there. Obviously, there's a lot of different stuff you can do. Who knows what he's going to grab with the Profane Tutor. But I just wanted to stop him from doing that. So, and he decides to Collective Brutality, so I'm just going to fire off a bolt in response. He takes the Tear Asunder, he has Fatal Push. So now we're not an amazing spot, but we have one creature on board, and, we're going to just keep attacking. He's got a Profane Tutor coming off Suspend, so he can get a ring or something like that, but, he's got 2 cards in hand. So I'm expecting him to just jam ring here, and he does. I don't have an answer right now, but that's okay. He's at 10 life, so, that is a fact. It is going to be a factor. Remember, we have Bonecrusher Giant in our deck. We have some other things. I draw another Brawler. That's not amazing. I'm just going to jam it here. At this point, I can't really play around Damnation. I could have cracked the fetches to get Jegantha, but I was worried about land destruction effects, like shrinking my Brawlers too much. Maybe that wasn't correct, though. He's firing off some marches to, shrink the creatures. I don't know if he miscalculated or something, because he only did 2 damage to one of the Brawlers. So, but he fired him off to gain life. But still, I'm in a pretty good position now. I top deck Kavu, and he's at 19 life. So you gain a bunch of life there, but pretty much all he's got is the ring. So, and I can start getting back in for damage here. So, again, I decided to attack with Brawler, play my Kavu. I think, I decided not to bring Jegantha. I think that was maybe in hindsight, I should have just gotten it and not worried about the field effects, but he's got a field here. So now I decided to crack one of the fetches, and he starts going after the things. But again, now I was patient with it. So now my creature, he can blow up my lands and stuff, but my creatures are still 5/5s. And I'm going to, of course, loot away this land with Kavu. I don't need it at this point. I think he maybe plays a Bowmaster here. Yeah, he does play a Bowmaster. I don't really care about the Bowmaster. Like, he can trade with my Brawler, but I'll still trample over him. And he's still taking 5 from Kavu, so I'm still feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. Sorry, he does block there, so I play the Nacatl. Now it's time to get Jegantha. And again, we're just in this game of, like, let's see what he can draw into. He's drawing a lot of cards, but he doesn't have a lot of life to play around with, so he's gonna just start shrinking my lands here. That's not that big a deal. I still have 5 mana for Jegantha. I play that land, I think to try to get a 5th type. I think I do have one more red source in the deck. He does ping. Yeah, I think this is to get another red source. And I do have one more in the deck, because I figured he's going to do something like this with Nacatl, and there it is. So now my Nacatl's still alive, and now I can still jam Jegantha. So now we're in a really good spot, and basically my opponent needs, like, Damnation to get out of it. And he actually just, surprisingly, he's got a million cards in hand. He's going to try to chain along rings and stuff like that, but he's still not really in an amazing spot. He's going to gains a little bit of life. I have Reprieve, so I feel, like, really good. I don't need to loot it with Kavu. I don't need to do anything. So now we just wait. I think my opponent is going to gain some more life from Cling to Dust, but he's still in a kind of perilous position. He needs exactly his Damnation, and he doesn't have it. Sorry, it's not in it. He goes Collective Brutality. I decided to Reprieve it, and then he's going to March in response, I think. But again, he's in a kind of tough position because I have a lot of pressure on board. I think he's only playing 1 Damnation in his deck, and I just was fortunate that wasn't in his top 40 cards. And so he's, like, digging for other stuff. I thought he maybe had other outs, but I don't know, maybe he used up all his Marches or something. He certainly did use a lot of Marches. We can look at, like, what's exiled and see how many he used. He used 2 of them, so I don't know how many runs. Yeah, we ended up getting there. So again, this is just one where he just tried to overwhelm our opponent. I think we were fortunate that our opponent, like, bricked, but I also don't know what payoffs he was maybe looking for. Like, I'm not sure if he played Karn or not, because he kept getting, like, the Coffers and stuff, but I think he was trying to find that Damnation, and he just couldn't because he was playing it as a 1-of, where their lists are playing 2 or 3 in the 75. So yeah, I think we're just, again, I think this is a tough matchup, and I think we were just kind of fortunate our opponent didn't have that good draws and bricked, and we had kind of these aggressive draws. So we got there against Coffers. So now we're all the way up into 6-2. So we've got one more round, trying to finish it out to get to 7-2, and then maybe have a shot at top 8. So we'll go on to round 9 here. Okay, starting off, I win the die roll, which is always nice. It's the key to winning in Magic. We got no lander, and we're down to 5. So I'm just going to keep my threats in a game unknown matchup down to 5. Jam our Nacatl here. Obviously, it doesn't, with the lands we have to go with Temple Garden. So, we at least have some pressure on board. It's not the worst 5. We'll see if we involve. Looks like my opponent's going to be on Scam here. So I'm going to attack for 3, and I thought about doing this about whether I wanted to bind or not, and I decided to just play Kavu and kind of force him to have the answer, but of course he does, so then his Ragavan connects, so you can debate whether that was, like, correct. Sometimes I played scared, I feel like I played too scared of Ragavan, but we top deck another binding, and obviously the play now is just going to be binding the Ragavan because I don't have much else going on. But yeah, he also kept a 1-lander, so now I'm, like, even more inclined to bind the Ragavan. Because he just doesn't seem to have lands. Thought sees away the Scion, but now I'm in a good position. He's at 10 life. He's got 1 land, and I have my Nacatl on board, and of course top deck a Monkey, which is a great top deck here. So we're just going to hit him with 5. I'm just kind of surprised he kept on the draw a 1-lander with Ragavan. I feel like that's not that consistent. On the play, it's different, but we attack for 5, doing a lot of damage, and then the game's just over. So that really wasn't much of a game, but I think it was just kind of like, I don't know, my opponent kept a 1-lander with Ragavan on the draw, which I again felt like it's a little weak, and then he went double Thoughtseize against a deck that's like me trying to do a bunch of damage to him. So obviously he got stuck on 1 land, but it's still risky to play, to double Thoughtseize me, especially when I have the Nacatl on board, like still attacking, right? Because we put him down to basically lethal. But anyway, not much exciting that game. Again, you could argue whether I let the monkey connect and I should have done that, but I thought it was better to play Kavu and force him to have the removal spell. The upside was just too high, especially being on the play. So that was game 1 against Scam. So obviously it went pretty well. Okay, on to game 2. I'm on the draw, so it's going to be a little different. This hand's like fine. It's not amazing on the draw. Obviously, it's weak to turn 1 Ragavan, but I don't think I throw it back against a deck I'm expecting to discard my hand. So I just have to take this and hope he doesn't have Ragavan. It's my strategy. And it looks like he does have Ragavan, so now we have to hope for a bolt or something. We do get another land, but I don't have a 1-drop, so I decided to just play the Triome to give me 5 types on turn 2. I've only got 1 Triome in the deck right now, so that's the reason. Of course, he hits my Brawler, which is like pretty bad for me. One of his better hits for sure, because now he's got a 2/3, and now I'm gonna just I think I'm just gonna play my Scion because of Fatal Push. So I'm just thinking like force him to have exactly Molten Collapse or Terminate. He does have Terminate, unfortunately, and now he's just kind of piling on. This is kind of just a game that Ragavan ran away with. Tear Asunder is kind of a dead draw, but I have to play my Scion. I just feel like I don't think it's a winning line to just try to like bolt the Ragavan and not play a threat. So I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna kill the Ragavan. He has Bowmaster, that's fine, and he has double Bowmaster, so he can kill my Scion. So again, we're still like so far behind here, and we have our hand is all 2 drops, unfortunately, so it's kind of hard for us to double spell. Yeah, if I draw a land here and get a basic, then maybe it's doable, but we draw a bolt. So now I'm probably in the position where I have to like bolt my own Brawler that he stole, and then stomp something else. And I think that's what I end up doing here. I bolt a Brawler, and then I think I'm going to stomp the Orc Army token because I'm playing around a Undying effect, and he stomps the Orc Army token to stop me from getting a Bonecrusher Giant. So again, we're not in amazing shape, but it's 6 life. Maybe we can get back into it. We've got some gas in our hand, so finally I can start playing my threats out again. And he's got a Fatal Push. So I felt like he just had the answers kind of this game. Ragavan ran away with it, and then he just kind of had the stuff for it. And this is just kind of the risk of, sometimes this happens. You play a deck with a lot of 2-drops and not a lot of lands, then sometimes this sort of thing can happen. I felt like I was just on the back leg this entire game. He draws his 3rd Bowmasters, so he's just going really wide, and that's like basically impossible for me to beat at this point. I can kill his Orc Army token. He attacks with everything. I block 1, I'll go to 1. And then he just play Bonecrusher here, I think, and then it's over. I have Tribal Flames to deal with one thing, but again, I can't double spell here. So I have to loot. I have to attack and loot and try to get something. But then I forgot that that was a bad play, but I was dead on board anyway. So I forgot that he could ping me if I looted. So, but anyway, yeah. So we just got a little stuck on. Obviously, sometimes it happens. We're 21 lands, so there's no guarantee I'm going to hit the 4th land, and I just happen to have like all my 2-drops in hand. And it's just, I felt like I was playing the whole game, playing catch up, and he just had stuff that lined up really well against me. So kind of what happens sometimes when you don't have that removal spell for Ragavan turn 1. But anyway, so I'm fortunate that I can go on to game 3 on the play. Okay, on the play, game 3 against Scam. I don't want to keep that 1-lander, so I think it was just too risky. I don't like keeping 1-landers in general with this deck. This hand is fine. It's not amazing, but we've got some of our sideboard cards with Celestial Purge and Tear Asunder. They're both decent in this matchup, and then I've got my 2 threats, so I think this is an easy keep. I decided to put back the Temple Garden just because my hand is a little awkward. Like, I'm probably going to get Sacred Foundry here, so now it's a little easier to get our at least 4 types on turn 2, which is the plan. And he's going to go Grief, but not Scam, which I was kind of surprised by. And then he Fatal Pushes the thing, so he's just basically going after my threats. So we're preparing for kind of a long game here. Doesn't look like he has much going on either. Here I think I get just my Triome in play, and then I do top deck Kavu, which is good, obviously. And now we just kind of play the waiting game, see what my opponent has in store for me. Maybe a Bowmaster. It is Bowmaster. Bowmaster isn't too scary for our deck most of the time, unless you have like Ragavan or something on board. And then here, I think he's going to jam either a Fable or a Blood Moon. He ends up playing Fable, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. We still are in pretty good position with our Kavu. And here I can just get my 5th type. I'm not too worried about Blood Moon at this point. I think he would have played it if he had it. And then we draw Scion. Obviously, Scion, great draw here. You couldn't really you couldn't really have a better draw. I'm just going to exile cards. I don't want to pump this Bowmaster. And he has to decide if he's going to like chomp or not. He doesn't, but now I'm in like very good position because he can't even chomp the Kavu. Plus I have Scion flying over the top. Plus we still have 2 removal spells in hand that he knows about, but those can also deal with whatever threats he comes up with. So he Legion's Ends my Kavu, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. I still have Scion going over the top. I don't know why he didn't attack there. I guess he didn't want to trade something with the Scion. But we do top deck well again. We get another Brawler, so we're in pretty good shape here, I think, still. We're just going to keep jamming threats. He's at 8 life. My creatures are a lot bigger. Like, yes, he can discard stuff. I just don't know what at this point he would find that would like scare me that much. Like, I have answers for Shieldred. I have answers for Grief. I think he just hardcasts a Grief here. Yeah, so he can take my Celestial Purge, but I can still Tear Asunder the Reflection. So that's really what I'm worried about here. And then we top deck Tribal Flame, so it's all over. But even if we hadn't, I think we'd be in pretty good position because I just have to deal with that Reflection so he can't keep copying his other creatures, and I'd be in pretty good shape. But I decided to attack first. I don't know what he could have that would save him. It ended up being nothing, but you could argue I didn't need to attack there because Tribal Flames him to end it instead of slow rolling it. But we end up getting the win against Scam in game 3, so that's nice. And then yeah, so we end up with I finished off with 7-2, and that's actually good to get me 16th place. So I make just squeak into the top 16. Unfortunately, my breakers kind of took a turn for the worse the last few rounds. I think it's because my previous round opponents like started losing more. So yeah, we only got as good as 16th. I think there were 2 or 3 7-2s that made the top 8. Like I said, 301 player tournament. Sorry, I lost again. I lost that original footage. I'm not sure what happened to it, but I know you guys wanted to see how I did, with this strong result. So hopefully you guys got something out of this gameplay stuff. I know it's a little different kind of analysis after the fact than it is when I'm like playing the whole thing out live. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And like I said, the deck felt really good. It still feels really strong. I like this configuration. I think again I made some small changes. So this is actually I think I was still playing Natural State in that event. But I like Force of Vigor now for that Amulet Titan matchup, and that's reflected in my updated sideboard guide, which you can check out. It'll be in the description. And then I think the rest is all kind of the stuff I've been playing and enjoying. So again, I really like this sort of build. I think this is I know we've got some RCs coming up. I think the regional championship in Europe is coming up shortly. So if you're considering playing Zoo or you've been testing it, I think this is really good configuration to start with. And if you're just trying to do well at events, then I think this is also good. Obviously, there's some flexibility in flex slots of what you want, but what you can play, I just really like. Basically, I really like every card here right now. So hope you guys enjoy this kind of content. Let me know in the comments if you want to support me. The best way to do that is subscribe. You can also check me out on Twitter. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of content. And thanks for watching.